Welcome to the Sharpe Show. Yes, Larry Sharpe here, a few minutes after 7 p.m. on the East Coast, but I am here at least, which is good, I guess. Glad that you guys have been able to join me for a few moments this evening, and it is an AMA, so if you want to ask me anything, you may. Absolutely, I'll be checking the comments throughout the show. I wasn't sure what I wanted to chat about this evening, to be forward with you. There were many things that popped up in my head, but I think there was something that seems to be almost everywhere. Like most people are talking about this in some way, shape, or form, one of these two things. And I feel like they're related. And that is Joe Rogan on Spotify and us maybe fighting in Ukraine. You might say, why in the world would either of these things be connected? How, Larry, can you connect these two things? They are totally different. One is a foreign policy issue that deals with war and such, and the other one is about some guy who does podcast stuff here in America and on Spotify. They're not related. They are on many different fronts. I'll bring up two, maybe even three specific things that I think they're very similar, in ways they're very similar and that matter. The number one, distraction. Yes, distraction. That's the most biggest thing, is distraction, right? Distraction of there are so many things that are going on. And so we're deciding that we want to go someplace else, look at something else, look over here, look over there, right? All these things, look over there, look over in Russia, worry about Spotify. And I want you to really think about this for a moment. Seriously, in your own world, regardless of what happens in Ukraine, whether Russians invade, don't invade, we support, we don't support, whatever happens in Ukraine, does it really affect you personally? Unless you have obviously a loved one in the military who has to go over there and fight. Or unless, of course, you have relatives in Ukraine, you are of Ukrainian descent. Assuming those two things aren't true, that you do not have a loved one that has to fight, and that you are not of Ukrainian descent, does it really affect you? Maybe it does, but how many does it affect? Very few. But what if we actually go to war? Affects you a whole lot more, doesn't it? More debt, more people, maybe loved ones who you may lose, more expenditures, all those things. It doesn't really affect us unless we go to war. And then it's negative, for sure. But what about big business? What about the military-industrial complex? Oh, yeah. It's real good for them. In fact, all of this yelling and screaming and distraction is really good for them. Fareed Zakaria did a piece this weekend talking about how all of the NATO people are now shifting forces over east towards Russia, and how that's a good thing. Okay, that's not a good thing, but if I work for the military-industrial complex, that's an amazing thing, right? Because now I got wear and tear on my pieces, on my weapons, on my vehicles. I've got all these things going on. So, okay, this is great. I got to buy more stuff. I need to do, more live firing exercises. I need more stuff. All of a sudden now, all of this is going over there and they're making tons of money. But how do we win, the individual? We don't. We don't. Spotify. What happens if Joe Rogan wins his battle and Spotify supports him and everyone else goes down and Joe Rogan is the king of podcasts? I hope he is. That's awesome. I hope he wins. I hope it does happen. Let's say it does. In fact, he devastates them. He crushes them all. He is the king of all podcasts. And everyone says, we're so sorry. And they all want him back on. And he totally wins. Does it really affect you or I that much? Not that much. What if he loses? What if he loses? What if Spotify totally bends and goes, oh, we're so sorry. We love you musicians. We're throwing Joe Rogan off, right? That all of a sudden happens. The reverse. They throw Joe Rogan off. Does it really affect you? Joe Rogan will start his own podcast, his own thing, whatever he'll start his own thing. And those who like Joe Rogan will still watch, and those who don't won't. Yeah. Distraction. Is it really a critical issue that matters to us? You know what matters to us? Our own worlds, our own economies, our own kids' education, our own retirement. That stuff matters far more than anything that's going on Spotify or Ukraine. But if we're thinking about that, we're not thinking about how broken our democracy is. We're not. We're talking about everything except how broken our democracy is. And it works very well because you look at the airwaves, everything's on these things. Everything's on these things. But let me go one step further. What people here in the chat are talking about. Misinformation. There's the second part, is the misinformation part. That really bothers me tremendously. The misinformation part. Do you think that the information we're getting from the government is the right or correct information? Sadly, lots of Americans do still think that. They do. And I know some of you, your heads were just exploded when I said that. But no, it's true. There's a lot of Americans who believe that when the administration says XYZ, that's true. Why? Government said so. Therefore, it's true. There are literally millions, scratch that, tens of millions of Americans who believe that still. Government said it. It's true. How often do we have to be lied to? They lied to us for Vietnam. They lied to us for the first Gulf War. They lied to us for the second Gulf War. And they're lying to us now. Why would I think they're telling the truth? However, we can't hear anything because now everyone gets canceled, beat up, yelled at, scolded, insulted when they say, you know what the government says may not be true. Not even is true. I mean, it's not true. But they're not even saying that it is not true. They're saying it may not be true. Not that it is false, that it might be false. And maybe this idea that I have might be true. Gone. Rogan has the same issue. How dare he not say what government says? How dare he not? And to be clear, I don't actually know where Joe Rogan stands on these things. I don't know. I'm not his friend. I wish I was his friend, but I'm not his friend. I know him, but I'm not his friend. I wish I was. So I don't know where he stands on this. But what I see, if you've watched any of his stuff, is he puts tons of people on, to include the CNN guy, Dr. Gupta, right? He puts everybody on. He puts them all on and he talks to them. And when he puts on someone like Gupta, Gupta has to say, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I went on. Please forgive me, CNN. I'm sorry I gave Joe Rogan any goodness whatsoever. I should have called him an evil man. And when he doesn't have a Gupta on, he has someone who's against Gupta. Now Rogan's the evilest guy. It'll be forgotten that he put Gupta on. The government's right, no matter what. This part drives me crazy. We've learned nothing when it came to the lies, nothing when it comes to the wars, nothing. And here's the worst part. The mob. The mob. Let's assume for a moment that we believe that Joe Rogan's this bad guy and he's trying to, I don't know, make us all die of COVID, whatever. You believe that. Okay, great. You believe that's true. You think that he's trying to make us all die of COVID or whatever is his nefarious, evil plan. Okay, got it. So if we try to cancel him, how does that work? Does he just go away? Does he go, oh, you guys got me. Guess my evil plan is foiled. I'll now go become a farmer. That's what I'll do. Of course not. It doesn't work. Do you think the people at the top who are trying to cancel him think that it will work? No, they know it won't work. That isn't the goal. The goal isn't for him to be canceled. The goal is for us to fight. And it's working. I'm talking about it now. It's working. Lots of people, I wish I was only talking about it. Lots of people talking about it. It's working. The goal is to keep us fighting, which goes back to point one, distraction. This isn't that important as a general rule, meaning what one guy thinks, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's very influential. But in our lives, in your life, in my life, we don't have to follow what Joe Rogan says. If you believe him, please follow him. If you don't, please don't, right? But we're not required. He has no physical power. He can't force us to do whatever he wants. He has no power. But the government does. The government does have the power to force us to do what it wants. Joe Rogan doesn't. So I get that some of us care what he thinks. Awesome. If you think Joe Rogan's a smart, savvy guy, please follow what he says. That's awesome. But you're not forced to. Government, you are. And now they try canceling. Now they try punishing. And of course, now mobs come out either way to defend. This is just making things worse. This is just making things worse. Why do we care so much about the Spotify Joe Rogan issue? In theory, we shouldn't, but we must, because it can affect us. Because if they shut him down, we're in trouble, right? But we shouldn't, if you get my point, we shouldn't care about what a podcaster, is doing. That should not be a big deal. But it kind of is now. We shouldn't care what's happening in Ukraine, but it affects us because we might go to war over it. So we have to. So now are we talking about the most important aspects of our country, meaning we don't have a functioning democracy. We don't have a functioning democracy. And I'm going to touch the most important piece here. Someone was talking, excuse me one second. Someone was talking to me about Nancy Pelosi running again. Nancy Pelosi running again. Now, of course, I don't think she should run again, but she's not my district, not my issue. My feelings have no values, right? Doesn't matter. So you think, what about the people in the district? Sadly, it doesn't matter there either. And that's my point. We don't have a functioning democracy. If Nancy Pelosi decides to run, she wins. That's how it works. If Nancy Pelosi decides to run, she wins. Why? Because she's the establishment and the deck is stacked against non-establishment unless they have tons of money, and she literally has tens of millions of dollars. And number two, it's gerrymandered. So the Democrat wins in her district every time. So if she decides to run, she wins. Well, might someone try to primary her? Maybe. It's not going to work, and she wins. We don't have a functioning democracy. That's a big issue. In my state, my governor decides to run for office. Only one person might be able to beat her. That's it. Everybody else, she wins. We don't have a functioning democracy. So let's care about Joe Rogan and Ukraine. I wish we could stop this. I don't know how. And it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that this is what we're worried about. And we shouldn't. And people are fighting. There are people online taking hours and hours. I'm doing it now, talking about these issues. And we shouldn't. We should be talking about the fact that we don't have a functioning democracy. That's kind of more important. Not even kind of. Totally more important. Maybe I'm taking this too far. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to take some of your comments. You guys tell me if I'm wrong on this one. But that's where my head is. Joel says, misinformation. Anything that's not the official state message at the time, just like Cold War USSR news agency TASS. Yes. That's the problem. Right? Remember when I talked about what I would have done if I was governor when COVID hit? Is I would use what I think is the best use of our current government infrastructure, which is a repository for information. People still like to call 311 or go to the official site. People like that stuff. Okay, fine. So we'll make the official New York State site with what the government thinks is the appropriate action and what others think are the appropriate actions. And then you can look at them and go, which one do I think is correct? All I care about as government is you give me accurate data. You are transparent when you decide to take on any of these so that we can figure out what's working, what's not working, and we can change. If the government doesn't use force to enforce its rules, if then when we change the rules, you're not mad at me. I can change them and go, well, the guidelines have changed. Why? We looked and we saw what happened. I wasn't forcing you to do it. Some people did it. They gave me back the information. Some of it was wrong. Some of it was right. Here's how it's actually working. That's the issue. That's good information. That's good data. That should be official. None of it's misinformation. And the biggest problem is who decides what's misinformation. And the second you try to shut down misinformation, you just make it stronger. What's that saying? When you cut out a man's tongue, you haven't convinced anybody that he was wrong. You've just made sure he can't say anything, right? I'm screwing that up totally. But anyway, it doesn't change the fact that he might be right. So yes. All right. Avi was in jail. Yes, Facebook jail. So I'm glad you're back, Avi. Yes. All right. Mike says, your thoughts on the governor and mayor of LA. Governor of LA, you mean governor of California? LA. All right. At the game, unmasked and not lifting mask mandates. Are you surprised by that, Mike? Are you surprised by that? The goal is to enforce the rules. It doesn't matter if the rules work or the rules even are important, right? It's from 1984. 2 + 2 is 5 because the party says it's 5, not because it is 5. The party says 2 + 2 is 5. Therefore, 2 + 2 is 5. It doesn't matter if 2 + 2 is actually 5. And it also doesn't matter if engineers use 2 + 2 as 4 or 5 when they're making bridges and such. That's irrelevant. But when we say, what's 2 + 2, you say 5 because the party said 5. So masks are important. Why? Because the party says the masks are important. Doesn't matter if you actually wear them, but you must because the party says so. So they know it's just the party saying things. So of course they wouldn't. Why would they? This has been so common all over the place, right? It's been everywhere. I know someone said once to me, they said, Larry, if what happens when you become governor and there's some kind of scandal like that? And I said, there won't be any scandal. Like, what do you mean? It'll just be news. It won't be scandal because I don't believe any of this stuff. So if I want to go out without a mask, I just go without a mask. I wouldn't care. I would just do it. That'd be news. It's not a scandal. Be like, oh, he didn't live in that stuff anyway. Yeah. So whatever. There's no scandal for me. It's just news. You might not like the news, but it wouldn't be a scandal. So yes, but for them, they're talking trash and then not doing it. That's the issue. So yes. So, all right. Pete says, if government wants to stop the biggest source of misinformation, all I have to do is shut up. You are right. You are absolutely right. From, I don't know, what I remember, weapons of mass destruction. Remember that one? That was misinformation. How many thousands of people died because of that? Maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died. How many nations were completely trashed? Governments broken, societies crushed, refugees created because of that big bit of misinformation. Way worse than cloth masks work or don't. Far worse. Not even close. And that's just one piece of misinformation. Absolutely. Joe says, but Larry, we have to fight for our freedoms by sending young Americans to kill or be killed halfway across the world. And that was my point, Joe. I don't want Ukrainians to suffer at all. I don't. I'm just being forward. If they don't suffer or they do suffer, unless, of course, you're from Ukrainian descent, that's an exception, obviously. How does it affect us? I hope they don't. I'd like to do things. I told you what my plan would have been, right? My plan is the opposite. My plan is, hey, Russia, how about you back your troops off? If you back all your troops off, remember all those stupid sanctions the last two presidents put on? I'll take them all off. Just back your troops, man. Back your troops off. We'll take off all the sanctions. That's it. All the girls can have all their money back. Just back your troops off. It's fine. Back off. And we're not going to bring Ukraine to NATO. And I remember, I think it was Fareed Zakaria. Maybe I'll bring it up. He was talking about how important it is that we should never, ever say that Ukraine won't join NATO. First off, why do we care if Ukraine joins NATO? Second off, why are we part of NATO? All us being part of NATO does, and you might say, Larry, it makes no sense. It does make sense because what NATO does is, again, it allows NATO nations to buy our weapons. I'm not joking. One of the biggest reasons why we're part of NATO is the military-industrial complex sells fighters and tanks and such and things like that. I don't know if they sell any tanks, but they sell fighters for sure. Missiles, fighters, anti-aircraft systems. They sell, I don't think any tanks, but all those things to all the NATO guys. So yeah, of course we want to stay in NATO. If they don't buy American goods, they might buy like German or British goods. You can't have that. So you have to buy our stuff instead. Or, crazy, we could pull out of NATO and just let our arms dealers, which we have arms dealers in America, sell where they want to sell. Leave them alone. Crazy. We could just do that. Not have to sacrifice American lives for a military industrial complex. We could do that. Still an option. Choices. So, yes. So, Joe continues, but Larry, I don't like what Joe Rogan's saying. Therefore, he should be banned from saying things. I wish that was a joke, Joe, but that's not. People are actually saying that. The piece I want to bring up here is people have a valid point if they believe that what Joe Rogan's doing is hurting people, right? If you believe that, it's a valid point, right? If you actually believe it. I don't believe what he's saying is hurting people. I don't think he's changing anybody's mind or any of those things. Anyway, I don't believe that. But maybe I'm wrong. The issue is, if you honestly believe that he's hurting people, okay, I'll buy that. Maybe you believe it to be true. Do you think shutting him up or trying to cancel him is going to stop the behavior? I would say for those people who hated Trump saying stuff all the time, they banned him off Twitter. Is he all of a sudden not powerful anymore? Do people not go to his rallies anymore? Are people not still going to visit him? Is he still not a powerhouse in the Republican Party? It didn't work. In fact, the people who like Trump like him more that you canceled him. The people who like Joe Rogan will like him more when you cancel him. It doesn't work. So if you actually believe that Joe Rogan's hurting people, I don't, but say you do, this is still the wrong answer. The right way of fighting this kind of speech is better, effective speech. The biggest reason why so many of the people are upset about this is because they don't have power. Power meaning money and influence, both of those things, right? If you look at the CNNs, MSNBCs, Foxes of the world, they're not doing a good job dealing with the democratization of media. They're not doing a very good job of it. Most of them are not doing very well with their streaming services. They're not doing any of those things. So what are we going to do? We're the establishment. We'll use the government to punish our enemies. You might go, Larry, that sounds horrible. And it's true and happens all the time. It isn't just media, by the way. Lots of companies use the government to punish their competitors. This is one of them, right? They're trying to use government to punish their competitors. So how do they do that? By getting government to scare the big media companies into acting before they get regulated in a place where they don't want to get regulated. Now, these companies do want regulation, but they want their regulation that makes sure they can do business as usual and they can crush any of their competitors. That's what they would like. Now, mainstream media would like regulation to crush them. So the government now gets to get money from both sides. Not a bad deal if you're government. I can get money from both sides, and then I'll pick a winner or loser at the end, or I'll just have you guys fight forever, and I'll keep getting money. The government's best job is to make sure nobody wins, and the battle continues, and they keep getting money from both sides. That's what's in government's best interest. That will probably happen for a while. We'll have this problem going back and forth for a while. Lobbyists make money. Everybody makes money. And we on the ground go, yeah, we got to protect Joe Rogan, or yeah, we got to fight Joe Rogan. And we keep giving our money and nothing changes. So I get if someone believes that he's hurting people. I do. I understand that. And that if that is your actual motivation, it's a good motivation. It's just misplaced. I hope, I want to believe that that's the motivation. So I'm going to say that. I'm not sure if it is. So yes. Josh says, I've heard Biden and Fauci spout misinformation. Will they get canceled? No, they will just change the narrative. They'll just change the narrative. Right? So it's like, again, I'm doing 1984 now. If 1984, some of you may remember the part where I'm gonna get the numbers wrong, but some of you remember this part, where there is a chocolate ration. And the chocolate rations, I'm going to make these numbers up because I've forgotten the details. For the sake of argument, the chocolate ration was 10 ounces per month, whatever it was. They have to lower it to 8 ounces per month because they're running out of chocolate. So they write in the newspaper, we're raising chocolate rations from 7 to 8 ounces per month. Well, it was 10. And they lowered it to 8. but they wrote in the paper that it was 7 and they raised it to 8. And people were like, oh, great. Oh my God, they're raising chocolate rations. It's great. Like the people were like buying it. Like, yeah, this is great. They're giving us more chocolate. That's what's going to happen, right? All the things they said will just be rewritten. Like Fauci never said that. Biden never said that. What's wrong with you, Josh? You crazy. It never happened. And then you'll show them like video of it and they'll go, nah, never happened. Well, the video here, never happened. Okay, never happened. That's what will happen. So yes. Pete says, Spotify didn't choose Joe Rogan over Neil Young. Neil Young chose to deplatform himself because a $30 billion company wouldn't cede to censorship. My worry is what I'm seeing already, which is the mob mentality, Pete. Neil Young doesn't, I don't mean to be mean on this. Not that I'm not a Neil Young fan. I like Neil Young, and I'm sure many people do. In this specific case, I hope that sounds right. In this specific case, for this specific situation, Neil Young himself doesn't matter. What matters is, will people follow him? And some are. If enough people follow him, he becomes powerful. He's the first guy into the breach. He's the one who's like, I'll go in the breach. Okay, whatever, I'll go in. The question is, will people follow him? If no one follows him, he's in trouble. You're right, Pete. He just got rid of himself. But if a bunch of people get behind him and go, yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too, now Spotify's got to think. Is Spotify creating their own competitor, right? Where all these other people will go, wherever that is, right? Is it whatever the Spotify, is there, I don't even know what a Spotify competitor is. Whatever that, Acme Inc., whatever's a Spotify competitor. Will they all go there? If that happens, Spotify might be afraid. So that will be my concern. Neil Young, whatevs. Again, not dissing Neil Young, I'm just saying he's one guy, right? But if all of a sudden it's 100, 200, 400 artists all of a sudden start changing, you might see Spotify change its message. You never know. And the reason why I say it is Spotify has already given in a bit. They've said things like, I don't remember the details, but something like, we're going to have late warning labels on our stuff. Terrible idea. And I know you're going to be mad at me. Some of you are going to be mad. Terrible idea. Just terrible idea. Because you're reacting to the pressure. Not that you shouldn't do it. I mean, maybe it's a good thing to have warning labels. I don't know the Spotify business model. That may be a great idea. But you can't do it in response to this. Because you've trained them that this works. And they are not going to stop until they get exactly what they want from you all the way. You can't respond directly to this. You can only respond to your customers, not people who aren't customers or people who you've actually hurt, not people who are being SJWs because they think they should be defending people who don't want to be defended, right? This goes back to Ukraine. We're defending Ukraine when Ukraine's not asking to be defended. Ukraine's like, they're not going to invade. Stop talking. We're good. Just be quiet. Send us some of those tanks and just be quiet. We got this. They're not going to invade. And we're sitting there going, oh, if they invade, we're going to do all these crazy things. Ukraine's like, can you just please? So you don't want to respond to the mob unless it's a good idea, in which case respond to your customers. It's a different issue. So that's the issue. So yes. Sherry says, curious to your response to Biden stating he's going to nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court. Sherry, please don't be mad at me. Please don't be mad at me. It falls right in line. Distraction. They've done this before. Presidents have said before they want to fill the seat with somebody, with some group. They want to check a box. Politicians check boxes all the time. It's what they do. He did it with his VP selection, right? He checked the box with that. Whatever. People check boxes. Do I think it's a good idea? No. But it's done. And is the world going to end? No. He is going to put someone liberal on the court. That's going to happen. Whether it's a black woman, whether it's an Asian man, he's going to put a liberal on the court. We know this, right? That's going to happen. Do I care if it's a black woman? I guess it's nice, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter if that makes any sense. This issue is nowhere big as people want to make it. He was going to put a liberal on the court no matter what. And if you like liberal judges, good for you. If you don't like liberal judges, sorry, But that was going to happen. Like Trump was going to put conservative judges on. What if Trump had said, I'm going to put a conservative guy on? Okay, we knew you were gonna. We know Biden's gonna. I don't mean to be flippant. I mean to put this in perspective. Would it matter if it was a white male, an Asian male, Hispanic woman, black woman? It's going to be a liberal in court. Does it really matter that much? To be forward with you? Sure, I don't think so. I think it's a bad precedent, but we've been setting a precedent forever. And he's been saying this forever. This is not a shocking thing. I think we're taking it like it's a shock. He said he was going to pick a woman for vice president, and he did. Did he say woman of color? I don't remember. Did he say that? I know he said woman. I don't remember if he said woman of color, but he said woman, and he did. Now he's like, I'm going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court, and he did. Reagan says he's going to put a woman on the court, and he did. The world's not going to end. It was going to happen either way, is what I'm saying, I guess. I would rather worry about what Pete's going to tell me about right now, which is our national debt. 29 trillion, 923 billion, 547 million, 295,151 dollars and 27 cents. More important than which liberal he will choose to put in the court. We get it either way. So, John said, this country's becoming a bunch of sissies who can't handle free speech and diversity of thought. Diversity. You know, Josh, this is the part that, you're right, bothers me more than anything, is that so many of us scream about diversity. And I do too. Like, I'm guilty of that too. I think diversity is awesome. Diversity of thought. I do. You see it in the people who I bring on the show when I bring people on the show. You see it in the people who I talk with on the show. You see it when I communicate. I'm happy to hear people who think other things. I take comments from people who are saying things I don't like all the time. I take insults and I read them out. You've seen me do it. Diversity of thought matters. If I am so weak in my belief system that I can't take somebody saying, Larry, you're wrong, why am I up here talking trash then? Right, Josh? I mean, I should probably just be quiet. Go watch some TV or something. Oh, hold on. You don't watch TV anymore. I'm old. I watch TV. But whatever. Watch Hulu or whatever is the cool. Is that cool now? Whatever. Watch, I don't know. What's the Crunchyroll? That's got anime on it. My daughter watches that. Yeah. So I should be watching anime then, right? That's what I should be doing. But no, I'm sitting here talking trash. So if I'm going to sit here and publicly talk trash, then I better be able to take some criticism. Otherwise, what am I doing? If I'm going to go out there and be a politician or a public figure, you got to take some criticism, right? But here's the worst part. And this may stress some of you. That's okay if it does. If you can't take someone saying bad words about you, what are you going to do when the fascists come? And the fascists always come. And when the fascists come, what are you going to do? Get upset when they want to call you names and put you in camps? Someone's got to be able to stand the ground. Someone does. It's a problem. And I hear it all the time, we're going to fight the fascists. Yeah. I would ask any of you who are historians, please do me a favor. Look for any internal struggle, not external, internal struggle when fascists were involved, when they've lost. Even when people were fighting them, literally in the streets sometimes with guns and bottles and knives and all kind of stuff. When do fascists lose? Internal, not external. When they go outside, they get killed. But when they stay inside their own country, how often do they lose? I think they have a really good record. And he's starting to check that out for me. Please do that. I can't think of one loss. Again, internal, not external, internal struggle. I can't think of any losses. They kind of win every time. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy proving wrong again. But I think we want to be stronger with powerful free speech, not fighting in the streets, but fighting up here in the mind, changing people's minds. That's the critical piece. I want people to not want to be fascists. I don't want to fight fascists. I want people to choose to not be fascists. That's way better. Like way better. That's all I'm about, is getting people to not want to be fascists. That's what I would bring up. So, all right. When did the word lie get replaced with information? Oh, I like that too. That is good. David says, it seems that the left, which purports to support free speech, really doesn't. I got to tell you, this is why Bill Maher is so upset. And so many comedians are upset because many, let's say most, I would go most comedians are left leaning. The left is supposed to be about, listen, hear my word, David, supposed to, well, hear my phrase, sorry, supposed to be about civil liberties, to include free speech. The ACLU, supposed to be about free speech. They're supposed to be about those things. They're not. And Bill Maher's yelling and screaming, saying, what are you doing? I thought we were the ones for free speech. I thought the conservatives were the ones locking speech down and don't say naughty words. I thought it was them. Now it's us. He's not happy about it, which is why you see him moving away from the left because of what you just said. You're correct. But if you go back 50 years, maybe, I'm just throwing numbers out in an area, several decades, I think the left was far better on free speech. Or you go back to the 60s, 70s, far better on free speech. Now, they took the First Amendment, made the first suggestion. They are not what they were. They were far better on free speech if you go back several years ago. Absolutely true. Well, several decades ago, I should say. Decades. Yes. All right. I'm going to go down here. All right. Let's see here. Michael says, it's like the propaganda minister once said during World War II. Make the lie big, make it bigger, and eventually people will become to believe it. Oh, I don't want to hear that. I think you're right, though. But yes, absolutely. Pete says, Joe Rogan's the new king of all media. Howard Stern sold out. Isn't Howard Stern a disappointment? Am I wrong on it? Isn't he a disappointment? I mean, some of you may not know this. You know, he tried to run for governor of New York in the 90s. I'm not making this up. That's true. Yep. Howard Stern, libertarian, in the 90s, ran for governor and then dropped out. But that isn't the only reason why it's a disappointment. But that's where his head was. I guess I was a libertarian, going to make things work. He was the guy who was fighting all that stuff. Now he's like, I'm scared. Everybody be quiet. What happened to him? I mean, really, what happened to him? I think you're right. I think Joe Rogan now is more powerful than Howard Stern. I think Howard Stern's mad. I want to be clear about something. No one can be the champ forever. That's not how it works. No one can be the champ forever. I don't care how cool and awesome you are, and I know many of you are cool and awesome. You can't be number one forever. At one point, you're not going to be number one. Howard Stern should have gone out like a champ, not like a chump. He's going out like a chump. He should have just said, you know what? I was the king of all media, and it was awesome when I was super cool back then. I'm going to step away. This guy's the king now. Go ahead. I was the king. Happy to be the king. Now I'm not. Move on. That's how you should move on from being top dog, the champ. Like that. He did not do that at all. It's terrible. Yes. So anyway, let me keep moving if I could. All right. Avi says, who would want to send our troops to Ukraine after the boondoggles in Iraq and Afghanistan? Even many Republicans now realize Iraq was a mistake. Also, we just fired 1,200 Navy SEALs for not taking the vax. Total idiocy. Let me cover a couple of those, Avi. The reason why you'd want to send our troops to Ukraine is because you want to sell a whole bunch of weapons. The military-industrial complex made a lot of money in Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a boondoggle for the Americans who sent their loved ones over there. But for those contractors and for those companies, Afghanistan was a $2 trillion boom. It was awesome. It was great for them. It was a $2 trillion grift. They don't see those as failures at all. At all. This was a wonderful thing for them. They can't wait. They're like, you can't get out of Afghanistan. I gotta buy my third house. You can't do that. I'm working on my third mortgage. You can't pull out Afghanistan. Oh, what, Afghanistan? Ukraine, we could go in there. Come on, I have not paid off my third house yet. Let's go to Ukraine real fast. I'm considering buying, a couple Teslas. So let's go to Ukraine. And you might think I'm being a bit flippant. I'm not. That's how they're actually thinking. There is tons of money. It is not a boondoggle from that point of view. They got to find some place. Now, do they actually want to go into Ukraine? The military-industrial complex wants NATO to fight. If America doesn't fight, not the end of the world, as long as they can sell their weapons to NATO, it's still a win for them. If NATO could spend 20 years defending Ukraine, that'd be awesome. They could throw tons of money in there. Yeah, people will die, but they never cared in the past. Why would they care now? And for as far as they're concerned, and they're not even Americans dying, even better. Maybe they get Americans to some war someplace else. I don't know, Mali or Yemen or something, and then they can send weapons over there too. So it was not a boondoggle from that point of view, if that makes any sense. So yes, and of course, what many people also don't know is the more elite our forces are, generally speaking, the more conservative they are. That's not a 100% rule, but it's a good general rule. The more elite the force is, the more conservative the force is a good general rule. More conservatives are anti-vax. So of course, our elite forces are going to be more anti-vax than they're not. And of course, they're going to be hard and tough and hardcore. They're not going to give in. Why? Because they're tough guys. They're literally Navy SEALs, some of the toughest people we have, trained by Marines, by the way. Anyway, just side note, I'll be trained by Marines. So they're the toughest guys we have. Of course they're not going to give in. You've trained them to not give in. We have trained these men to not give in. Of course they don't give in. That's what makes them so strong. Of course that was going to happen. You're totally right. This is a terrible idea. Nothing but bad. Nothing but bad. So yes. Logic says no notification from YouTube again. This is the norm. Shelly says the same thing. No notification. I have been shadow banned. I'm part of this, right? They're not banning me because I'm blue checked. So they're not going to ban me, but they are shadow banning me. Terrible. People don't get, I got a note today from someone who has been part of my Facebook page for years, asking me if I'm considering running for governor. That happened today. Last week, I got 2 of those. Yeah, 2 of them. Facebook isn't telling people I'm on. Neither is YouTube. They're purposefully turning me down so that people can't see what I'm doing. That's on purpose because I'm misinformation. In their world of misinformation. Well, have I gone away? No. They tuned me down. And what happens if I run for office coming up here? Oh, they might be scared then. It's an example right there. Yes, absolutely. So, wasn't Joe Rogan once left of center? Yeah, I kind of called him a Democrat when I was on his show. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. So, yeah, I think that's true. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Tom says, I'm sure Rogan is more popular this week than last week due to the distraction. Yeah, I mean, look, do I think, again, I'm very clear, I do not have any special information. I'm not a close friend in any way, shape, or form. I'm a distance acquaintance. I've met him. We're not close at all. So I have no inside information. This is just my opinion of him. Just my opinion. Take it any way you want. I don't think he likes this. I don't think he wants this to happen. That's just my gut feeling. If anyone knows him better than me, feel free to tell me what you think he may be thinking. But I just don't think that he wants this. I think he wants to do a show. I feel like he really enjoys his show. It's his life. He really enjoys it. He wants to do it. I think he just wants to do a show. And this, I think in his eyes, is a distraction. Also, he's like, why do I have to put up with this? Why am I doing this? I want to do my show. But I think you're also right, Tom. It's helping him. He's getting stronger. Cancellation, once people are at a certain level, doesn't work. If anything, it backfires. So Michael Grant says he still considers himself liberal, whatever that means now. Yeah, I think you're right. Yes. Joe says if we shut down someone we don't agree with, then we can't expect them to defend us when someone wants to shut us down. We all lose. Oh my God, yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. You see many times I have supported issues that I have no horse in the race, right? When I supported family law reform, and I still do support family law reform, total family law reform, people would say, Larry, tell me your story about how you went through this. And I go, I didn't go through it. What? No. I didn't get divorced. It didn't happen to me. I didn't do this. I didn't go through New York State divorce. It didn't happen to me. Well, why are you supporting it? Because it's wrong. Yeah. So that's why I support it. It doesn't affect me, but so what? Everybody's rights matter all of the time. I don't own a firearm. I'm the only pro Second Amendment gubernatorial candidate that's been in the past. I don't know how many months, how many years. Years. Only one. Only one. Only one with a plan to get rid of SAFE Act. Only one. No one else. I don't own a firearm. I live in New York City. I'm asking to go to jail if I buy a firearm in New York City. I'm begging to go to jail. So yeah, of course. I support the vaping industry. I don't vape. I don't even smoke. None of that. Doesn't matter. I don't vape. I don't smoke. None of it. I support the industry. Why? Because you have a right to vape if you want to vape. Just because I don't, so what? You shouldn't make laws based upon your personal feelings. That's what kings do. That's what queens do. That's what emperors do, right? You shouldn't make laws based upon your personal feelings. And to be forward, as humans, emotions always make us hypocrites. That's what we do. I'm totally against death penalty, right? I don't want the state killing people. I don't trust the state to do it right ever. Theoretically, could I see a reason for it? I could theoretically. I could see an argument for it. I don't trust the state at all doing it. You affect my family? Of course I want you executed. I'm a total hypocrite if it affects me. Of course I would be. And so would you. Which is why you see all the time when individuals who've lost someone say things that I think are crazy or dumb or whatever, I'm very lenient for the individual, towards the individual who took the loss. Who I have no lenience for is the guy or gal next to him who's trying to be righteous. That person I hammer. But the one who's taken the loss, whatever that is, who's lost a friend or the family member, I back off because they've taken the loss. They're emotional. They feel horrible. I might be a hypocrite too if I was them, if it was me, right? The same thing happened to me. I might also be a hypocrite. So I'm very lenient for that person. It's those around them that I will hammer, but not that individual. So I think you're totally right, Joe. I mean, I went a little bit off topic on that, but the idea is we should always be defending each other. Always. Because one day I might need your help, Joe. And if I'm all like, I don't care what Joe thinks, well, then Joe's going to be like, I don't care what Larry thinks. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. David says, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't know what to do with herself if she didn't run. You know, I think there may be something to that. And I'm not sure it's where you're going. Let me tell you where I'm going, David, and see if I'm wrong with this. The problem we have here is it feels good if you're Nancy Pelosi, isn't it? People recognize you. You're powerful. People want to kiss your butt all day, want to give you money, ask you favors. It's great. Now, all of a sudden, you retire. Now you're some woman, whatever. Okay. Good luck. I mean, you have money, which is great. People still want to get money off you, I guess. But they want to get money off her anyway, right? So I guess it's a big difference. You retain the cash. I mean, she's a multimillionaire. You retain the cash, but you lose, I think, the power. So I think it's part of that too. I think it's both. So Joel says, I shared on Facebook. Thank you, guys. And let me bring that up now that you brought it up. Please, I know I bug you every time, and I'm going to keep bugging you. Like and comment and share. It does matter. I get shadow banned constantly. If we share enough, this can explode and go further and further and further. Please, guys, if you can help at all, share it everywhere. Like, put a comment down there, right? Whatever. Share it. Click the like button, whatever, the hug button, the laugh button. I don't care. You don't like me, the dislike button. Click any button. It does matter. Please do it if you can. And of course, as I ask you also, support our sponsor. Our sponsor is libertarianism.com. It's a place you can go to learn about libertarianism, watch some cool videos, get some cool merch, answer some questions, take some tests. It's great stuff, a lot of fun. Talk about things like happiness and pain and loss, coercion, persuasion, stuff just like that. So if you have a moment, click that link right there. And if you've done it already, if you're like, Larry, did it already, no worries. Take that link and share it. Share the link instead and let someone else click over there and see what it's all about. I talk about happiness all the time. Libertarianism. It's about happiness. Libertarianism.com. Click that link right there. Support our sponsor. It's free. You don't got to buy anything. Like, comment, share, free. Click in there, free. Right? If you want to buy merch there, you can, but you don't have to. You can take some of those quizzes and you pick up points You get the merch for free too. So you can get free merch, free everything. Unless you want to buy merch, feel free. You can always do so if you like. So please, guys, go there, support our sponsors. They help the show rock and roll. I really appreciate it. Let me get back to our comments if I can. So the lunar eclipse is here. The lunar eclipse says, Larry, this is the problem, is that we're giving a false choice. Hawkish neocon or a Putin shill. Ukraine, a broken democracy, rife with corruption of organized crime and oligarchs, just like the Kremlin. Just like the Kremlin. You know, I think you're right. This goes back to the same idea of we politicize everything. But the one thing you notice when it comes to both Joe Rogan, Spotify, and Ukraine, as a general rule, it isn't really a left-right paradigm as much. It is, but not as much. It's much more establishment versus non-establishment. Establishment Republicans are all about Ukraine. Establishment Democrats, all about Ukraine. It's the non-establishment who are like, wait a minute, do we really want to do this? Why? Well, the non-establishment ones either haven't figured it out yet or aren't getting all that cash from the military-industrial complex. You're getting all that cash from the military-industrial complex, got to invade something. Might as well be Ukraine. Now, that sounds horrible, but no, it's true. And his next part, most of the people who are actually running for office and who are actually our Congress people, please take this the right way, guys. They aren't that bright. That's not an insult. I'm just saying they aren't that bright. They were picked by somebody and they won. So now when some slick lobbyist walks up and goes, hey, here's why we have to invade Ukraine. Here's some big words you've never understood. And let me tell you some history that you don't know. And let me say some words that might scare you. And let me tell you how the world might end that you haven't figured out yet. And they go, oh my God, all those big words and world ending and history. I guess I better say yes. And many of them actually believe it because there's no one on the other side going, yeah, everything that guy said, total garbage. Don't believe any of it. It's garbage. It's not true. There's no one to say that. So they actually believe it. You might go, Larry, that seems too simple. Yeah. And true. Simple and true. Yes. Rick says, you have my support, Larry. We need to target people who aren't even registered to vote because they believe it's just a two-party fight. They don't agree with either side. Agreed. Doing my best to do so. You are correct. Yes. So, all right. Shelly says, Facebook threw me out. I don't miss it. Too many days in Facebook jail for telling the truth. Oh, my God, Shelly. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yes. Paula says, no, you are right, Larry, and I hate them for making me a Joe Rogan fan. I did not used to like the guy. Yeah. All right. Let me say something's going to drive some of you crazy. Some of you said Joe Rogan used to be like left of center. Yes. And now he's moving right. Now, if you're watching this show and you consider yourself more left than right, if you're listening and you consider yourself more of a Democrat than a Republican, if you think of yourself more of a more left-leaning than right-leaning, the left, like this, the establishment left, is pushing people to the right. They're making people go Republican. And you say, wait a minute, how's that possible? They're fighting the right. No, they're fighting anyone who isn't them. And if they believe, right, to Rick's point, if they believe that it's only a two-party system, well, if you push them off the left, they're going to go to the right. What's an opposite example of this? The Republicans who are never Trumpers, all the never Trump Republicans, they didn't go libertarian. You should go libertarian. They didn't go green. They didn't go independent. They went back to Democrats. They just went to establishing Democrats. So they went, oh, we don't like the new Trump version of Republicans, so I guess we're Democrats now. And as silly as that sounds, that's actually happening. If you look at a lot of the never Trump Republican groups, they're supporting Democrats now. Look at it, I'm not making this up. So this goes both ways. It doesn't just go from left to right or right to left. It goes both ways. If people believe it's a two-party system, that's all there is. If they believe that, when one side alienates you, you go to the other. I mean, Jordan Peterson is like an icon of the right. He used to be kind of a lefty, if you know his past. The left hammered him. He said, oh, I guess I'm a righty now. Happened to lots of people. Dave Rubin, same thing. Now they're all on the right. Tulsi Gabbard is going right. They're all going right. When you go to someone and go, yeah, I like all the things, but I don't like this thing. You don't like this thing? Oh my God, you're not one of us. Get out. Well, if I'm establishing, where do I go? The other party. So yeah, I think you're right. They are pushing people into that area. I think you're totally correct. Yes. So let's see here. Rob, thank you for giving this to me. Thank you. This is the quote that I butchered earlier. Thank you, Rob. When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You are only telling the world that you fear what he might have to say. Thank you. I butchered that terribly. Thank you, Rob. That's what I was trying to say very poorly. Yes. So, all right. Caleb says, truth is a perception. Yes. And let me bring this piece up. While the internet has made it much easier, Caleb, for us to figure out what's going on, to learn, to investigate. It's made it easier for us to do that. It is also made it to where it's overwhelming. And if any of you have ever done this, you could decide that I'm going to go, check something out, research something, and you could go down a rabbit hole for days, literally days, on any given idea or thing, whatever, and then not know who is real, who's full of it, who's kind of right, who's biased. I mean, you could go down a rabbit hole that you can't even imagine getting out. People do it all the time. You've probably done it yourself. Well, that's in theory a good thing that you are able to get the information. It's also overwhelming. And when it's so overwhelming, we often go, I just can't do all the homework. I can't go down another rabbit hole. I'm going to listen to my talking head, whichever one I believe, and I'm just going to believe they're right. I think it's common. It's one of the reasons why you see me go back and forth with you guys so much. I don't want you to just believe me. I hope you all believe me. Of course I do. I wouldn't be saying this, doing this, if I didn't think I wanted you to all believe me. Of course I want you to all believe me. I hope you believe everything I say. I hope you do. But I go back and forth with the chat so you can see what other people are thinking. You can see my thought process, where my head goes when things talk. Where am I going next? What am I thinking? Why do I think the way I think? I'm hoping it validates who I am and what I'm thinking. And also, you see me change my mind sometimes. So that's why I go through this. I'm hoping that transparency provides the right perception of truth. So I hope I kind of brought that back here. Hope I did a good job. I brought that back. So yes. So, all right. David says, the party says 2 + 2 = 5. If you don't believe the party, you're a traitor to the country. Yes, David, it's correct. The party and the country are one. That's correct. If you don't believe the party, you're a traitor. And I think you see that. I think you see that, to be forward, both parties. Absolutely. So yes. So, all right. Let me walk down another one if I could. Shelley says, try telling anyone that Mexicans are Native Americans. They'll go bonkers. Where did that come from? That's an interesting one. Okay. Joe says, headline, scandal. President Sharpe ends sanctions on foreign country and avoids war. Republicans and Democrats call for impeachment. That would actually happen. You're right, Joe. That would actually happen. Yes. But it wouldn't be a scandal for me. They'd be like, President Sharpe, is it true you're cutting sanctions? Yeah. It's kind of what I campaigned on. Yeah. Yes. I said I would, and then I did. So yes. That's what would happen. 100%. Absolutely. Avi says, Larry, isn't it amazing the Dems used to be the peace and love hippies opposing the Iraq war with all their virtue signaling, coexistence bumper stickers. Now, all of a sudden, they have a hard-on for starting up with Russia. These people have no values. If you said the sky was blue, they would say that's misinformation. Since at night it's black. I want to go back further than that, Avi. And you're right. The Iraq war, the left had it. All right. I'm going to give you a couple things the left was doing well. The left, I think, had, for sure, some moral backing, right? It had an ethical stand. one was in the 60s against the Vietnam War, against the draft. I think the left was at its strongest then, right? That's when they were like, no, we care about free speech. They were fighting against all the censorship. The left was doing the right thing then. I mean, they were on par. They were rocking and rolling. They cared about free speech. I mean, they were at least they had the right moral high ground in my view. Some of you might disagree. My view is they had the right moral high ground. And again, Avi, you're right. During the Iraq War, they were the only ones out there yelling no. They were protesting. I think you're right. And the beginning of Occupy Wall Street. I think if you look at the beginnings of Occupy Wall Street, it was right. They got nowhere with the Iraq War protests, the Afghani War. They got nowhere with those, and it just kind of went away. But Occupy Wall Street began, I think, with the right idea. The idea that the elites are screwing us. True. The 1% are screwing us. True. I think it began well. But in their desire to have no leaders, no rules, no nothing, they wound up having nothing, and it just kind of fell apart and became just garbage stuff at the end. Occupy Wall Street failed miserably. It just became like, well, I mean, basically what happened is the corporate class said, oh, this is a big deal. They got us dead to rights. What are we going to do? Well, we could make actually some changes to where the establishment doesn't control everything. They went, we can't do that. It's terrible. They went, well, we could send our leadership to woke classes. Let's do that. Let's do that part. That's way better. We get to keep all our money. Yeah, we keep all our money, all our power. We'll just tell our leaders that they should be woke. We'll do that. And they're like, deal. Will they buy that? And then corporate America went to them and said, how about woke classes? And they went, yeah, we won. And Occupy Wall Street ended. I'm simplifying, but that's kind of what happened. So now it's all woke stuff when they actually had something real. And I think they dropped the ball. And now it permeates everything. So yes. So, all righty. Gail says, yes, we should have NATO ASAP. I agree. Yes. David, didn't we have an agreement with Russia after the collapse of the Warsaw Pact that no Warsaw Pact would join NATO? We didn't have an actual agreement. We had a kind of verbal yes by, I think it was our Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. I forgot which one of them. I forgot who that was actually. Was that? I don't remember who it was actually. Wow. My memory has failed me in this one. It was either our Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State who told the Russians that we wouldn't do it, but there was nothing in writing at all. The Russians took that as gold. We took it as, people say things. That's how we took it. And we started moving forward. So that's what actually happened. And we should have just made a rule. Or we should get out of NATO and let NATO do what it wants to do. So yes. So Jamie says, be smart like the Taliban and get arms for free without joining NATO. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Joey says, open, honest conversations with all people should never be censored, period. Again, not wrong. Yes. Agreed completely. Yes. So Joe says, banning Trump from Twitter literally took away the worst thing even Trump supporters hated about him. Backfired, in my humble opinion. You know, Joe, I think there's a lot of insight to that. I remember when I was at Freedom Fest, I was on the main stage at one point, and they were asking questions about, does it matter that people didn't like Trump for the election results? And people were like, no. I said, yes, 100%. The amount of people who I meet and have met in New York City and New York State who, if you talked about Trump's policies, would support the vast majority of his policies. But if you then mention Twitter, go insane about how they hate Trump. Tons of people, I can say that from New York. I don't know if that's true across the country, but I assume it is. I don't think New Yorkers are that different from the rest of the country. There were a lot of people who, if you just said, here is Trump's policy, they'd be like, that's not bad. Yeah, but it's that guy from Twitter. Oh, that guy, I hate when he tweets. The amount of people I know who actually said out loud, hey, can someone just take away his phone. That's what they said. Can someone take away his phone? That's how bad it was. Take away his phone. Anyway, so that's I think it did backfire in that regard. I do. I think so. Doug says it starts with canceling and ends with turn and face the wall. That's tough. I hope that's not true. Maybe right though. Hope not. Nate says them. Listen to the experts. Rogan. Okay, here's a bunch of experts with different perspectives. Them, not those experts. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Hey, you're not wrong, Nate. That's kind of true. What they should have said is listen to our experts. See, they messed up. They didn't put the our part there. Listen to our experts. Yes. Joe says government primary reason for existing these days is so big business can crush their competitors. I wish you were wrong. It is a big, big deal now. It absolutely is. Yes. Doug says Neil Young and Joe Rogan should settle it in the octagon. Completely unfair, Doug. Not even. Neil needs a champion. If Neil gets a champion, then yes. But Neil, no, that's Neil Mountain. Terrible idea. No. There we go. Avi says, yeah, Neil Rogan versus Neil Young, King Kong versus Bambi. Thank you, Avi. That's not a fight. That's a slaughter. I don't want to watch that. That's a slaughter. That's like mean. I don't want to see that. Yes, at all. Yes. All right, I'm see if I can do this here. All right. Let's see. David says the Democrats and Republicans do that now. They deny what they said 5 years ago and act like going crazy when you call them out on it. Agreed. Yes, they change it. Absolutely. They just change it. Yes. Joe says, gotta hand it to Joe Rogan. He's reinvented himself so many times and has been successful. Podcaster, UFC commenter, comedian, game show host. It's true. I think you're right. I think he's shown that you can be a Renaissance guy and still do things. Right? I think you can. It does work. I think he was ahead of his time. But one of the guys who was also ahead of his time, believe it or not, was Glenn Beck. Some of you may not like Glenn Beck. I understand he can be controversial. But Glenn Beck, he went on his own and began to blaze when people thought he was nuts. They're like, you can't do that. You can't create something like that. And he was like, well, I'm gonna. And he did. And the blaze is basically cancel proof now, right? He makes his own money. He has his own subscribers. He has his own, TV station, whatever. He's got his own stuff. And he's kind of uncancelable now. And if you like Glenn Beck, awesome. If you don't like Glenn Beck, I guess not good for you. But either way, I like Glenn Beck. I consider him a friend. I like Glenn Beck. But, some people don't. And that's okay. Whatever, it is what it is. But he did that. And I think Joe Rogan was the same thing. He kind of made his own thing also. And so people don't like that. They get mad. But I think the Glenn Becks and Joe Rogans of the world, they are the media pioneers that others are going to follow in some way, some form. A lot of people now are following the Glenn Beck model. That is from years ago. And others follow the Joe Rogan model, which is also from years ago now. So yeah, it's true. Shelly says, anyone who likes Neil Young already has all this music. That's funny. Eric says, Amazon, Pandora are competitors. There we go. So yes, they'll rush to those and that's it. They'll do that instead. Yes. Donna says, who do you trust for news, Larry? I'm going to tell you something that, again, is going to drive some of you crazy. I watch a lot of news. A lot. So I watch at least 2 hours of news every day. Actual TV news. Because TV news is what people who vote watch. People who vote watch TV news. So I watch at least a couple hours of TV news every day. I try to get some local news here in New York City. I try to get some left and right news. I try to watch. I have so much trouble watching CNN. CNN is just so bad. I would rather watch MSNBC than CNN. And some of you are going to be like, are you nuts? No. I'd rather watch MSNBC. Absolutely. I watch MSNBC and I watch Fox News. I try to watch the more popular shows because those tend to be the ones that most people are getting. So I'll try to watch, and I'm going to make one side of you is going to be unhappy with what I say, but I watch Rachel Maddow and I watch Tucker Carlson. because they're often polar opposites. And I try to watch something else also, depending upon what I want to watch. I will sometimes watch breaking points here or there, depending on what's happening. I'll sometimes watch Rising, depending on what's happening there, here or there, depends. And then when I get something that comes to me, I then do my own homework. If that makes any sense. So if Rachel Maddow or Tucker Carlson says something that seems to make sense to me, I go, huh, all right, then do my own homework. And I watch other stuff. I'll watch YouTube videos. I'll read articles. I'll do that kind of thing. So I tend to get the mainstream to give me the pieces, and then I go do a lot of my own homework here or there. 2 weekend shows. I like 4 weekend shows. I usually watch 4 weekend shows. If everyone's on, it's Bill Maher Friday night. It is Michael Smirkana Saturday morning. It's Fareed Zakaria Sunday morning, and John Oliver Sunday night. Those are the 4 I usually watch. Those give me the ideas that I need to do my own homework on. So that's what I usually watch over the weekends and during the week, so that I can kind of stay up to date. And the next thing is, believe it or not, lots of people send me stuff all the time. I get stuff in my inbox. I get stuff texted to me. I get stuff Facebook messages to me all the time, which is, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen that? I get articles literally daily. Someone's sending me stuff. And the team watches a lot of it. So some of you have sent me stuff that I haven't gotten. It's because the team hasn't forwarded to me. My team watches it daily, and then they send stuff to me. So all of a sudden, my team will say, hey, check this out. Look at this. Check this out. Look at this. And that'll give me more stuff to look at. And then I'll do homework that regard. So I hope I answered your question. I wish it was an easier answer, but I don't just watch one thing and say yes. So that's the issue. All right. Ed says, to be clear, the government creates their own crisis, a lot which they always want to cause drama to get attention. Yes. The reasons, what goes with that false information and other stuff goes on. The real pandemic we have is basically the clout chasers. Oh, interesting. Clout chasers are a pandemic. I get what you're saying. It is the norm, isn't it? Right? The more clout you have, the more people pay attention to you, the more power you have. I guess it's kind of true. So, yes. Nate says, it was news to me that Neil Young was still alive. Joe says, Sirius XM. Yes, another competitor. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. John says, bald fighter horse medicine taking Joe Rogan bad because he has mean people on who I don't like and does not follow big pharma and government idols. Cancel him now. A bunch of states right now. Yes. But there's another thing. He's not apologizing. He's not accepting that, right? Spotify is a little bit, but he's not accepting to this. He's not going, you know what? You guys are right. He's going, no, you're wrong. No, double down, triple down. Yeah. That's even worse because that's heresy. Yes. Real Mad One says, I like the note warning. If you listen to this, you might actually hear truth. That's good. Yes. I love that. I love that. Yes. Chris says, racism is what it is. Only going to consider a person of a certain skin tone as blatant racism. Well, I mean, could you call it sexism then too? Chris, I mean, could you? Right? He's looking for a woman versus looking just for a black person. I don't know. Right. And I guess my other worry is I don't know if it matters that much. I get that really is my point. I don't know if it's worth the hassle. If he probably would have done it whether he said it or not. Right? Say he didn't say it. He said, I'm going to pick the best person. And then he happened to pick a black woman. We would all go, yeah, he picked a black woman. We would still say that. So I don't know. I don't know. Joe says, let's be honest. Would Biden nominating a white male mean that nominee would be any more likely to be pro-Constitution nominee? Joe, thank you. Yes. The odds are whoever he nominates is going to be a liberal, right? I mean, that's kind of what he's going to do, regardless. If it's a black female, white male, can be the same. So, yeah. So, yes. All right. James says, Ukraine, hey, U.S., stop inflaming us. U.S., we come in to protect you. Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you. Yes. Absolutely. So, Shelly says, "What is the black woman's name? Does Biden know?" I don't know if he's actually picked somebody yet. I don't think he will. I think it'll be picked for him. I think they will pick. I think the nominee will be picked for him. That's what I think. They'll give him like a list of like, hey, these three. What do you think? That's what I think. So yes. James says, when it comes to Ukraine, remember what Major General Smedley Butler said: "War is a racket." Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes. Joe says 2 trillion more to flatten the curve. That's all it takes, Joe. Why are you so mad? 2 more trillion, done. Done. 2 more trillion, done. Over. There we go. I love it. Let's see here. Jericho says, Larry, I watched WXXI. Oh, I've been on WXXI. I think I have. So yes, I'm glad. Thank you. Absolutely. Let's see here. Bobby says, we know the VP can break a 50-50 tie in the Senate on pending legislation, but can the VP cast a tie-breaking vote on a Supreme Court nominee? It seems to be a gray area constitutionally, and a scenario that may come up sooner rather than later. My assumption is that if they need to use it, they will. And I think the reason is Obama. Why do I say that? Obama made what I think was a terrible choice. And what I mean by that is when he wanted to put Gorsuch up, not Gorsuch. Not Gorsuch. Sorry, not Gorsuch. I'm sorry. I messed it up. I'm sorry. Not Gorsuch. The guy who's the current. Sorry, that guy. Someone will correct me. I'm sure. The guy who right now is the AG. Sorry. Wow, came up blank. Anyway, that guy, the Senate said we're not doing it, and he didn't do anything. He went, okay, I guess I don't get my appointee. I guess I don't. He didn't just say, well, I'm putting him up then. He didn't do that. Now you might go, Larry, should he have done that? Yeah. I think Trump should have gotten his, and he did, and Obama should have gotten his. The Constitution says that when there's an opening in the Supreme Court, the president puts the person in. I was 100% behind Trump doing it, and I was behind Obama doing it. It's in the Constitution. You should do it. If the Senate doesn't like it, I don't care. The Senate doesn't have to agree to it. It's in the Constitution. Obama gets his, Trump gets his. That's how the game is played. You don't like it? You shouldn't play the game. That's how the game is played. Now, Obama backed down and went, well, I guess I don't get him, and walked away. I don't think Biden will do that. Biden will just go, no, done. She's in. Done. She's in. He'll just say, Kamala, make the vote, move on. And I don't think anybody will stop him. So I don't know if it's constitutional to be forward with you. I don't think it'll matter. I think he's going to go, it's done. They're in. Goodbye. But something else. There's probably a couple Republicans who don't want to start this precedent, and they'll probably vote with the Democrats to bring in a Supreme Court nominee. I think they will. That's my gut, because right now there's that little rift within the Republican Party also, right? Those couple of guys and gals who are like against everybody. So I think that'll work anyway. That's just my 2 cents. So Marco says, as a woman, I'm glad diversity efforts have led to better pay and leadership opportunities for women in general. Agreed. Yes. But personally, I'd never want to be hired for something to check a box. I want to be hired because I'm the best candidate. That's the problem with Biden's statement. Yeah, I think the point here, Margot, is he was saying it to get points, which makes it worse, right? If he thought that was the right thing, he would have just said nothing and said, I will, put the best person out there, whatever, and then pick the black woman anyway if he thought that was the right answer. But the problem is, to your point now, whoever he picks, everyone's going to look at her like, oh, yeah, that's why you got your job. It's a bad look for that person. It would have been way better if he would have said nothing and said, I'm just going to pick whoever I think is best, and then happened to pick a black woman. I think it was a selfish thing he did by saying that. He was doing it to pander so that people would say, oh, see, he's one of us. He understands this, and he's one of us, and he'll pick people based upon race and gender. And it was for that reason why he did it. But I think he hurt the woman who he picks. I mean, she may be a great person in theory. I don't know who's going to pick, but she may be a great person. Won't matter. To your point, it's going to feel like, oh yeah, you were a checkbox. It's tough. He should have said nothing. He did her a disservice. Yes. Doug says, fight fascism with fascism. They don't even realize that's what they're doing. Yeah. Yes. Michael says, none. They have a good record of winning internal struggles. Yes, I know. I can't think of any. I mean, fascists, they win. Again, internal. They win all the time. Absolutely. Joe says, what do you think of the book banning? You know, there's many things happening in schools now. They're rewriting books now. You know, they're reading out, they're taking the N-word out of some of Mark Twain's books. Right? They're doing that kind of thing. I'm not a fan. Right? My daughter, my youngest daughter, and I sat down and we watched 12 Years a Slave. Some of you may remember that movie. And many parts of it are very harsh. It's slavery. Slavery was harsh. My daughter's young. She's 11. She was 11 or 10 when we saw it. 11 still when she saw it. I mean, Larry would take her to see a movie like that. Yes. Yes. I want her to understand what slavery is for many reasons. One, I want her to understand her heritage. But two, I want to be able to compare it to today. When people are yelling, it's the same as slavery. It's not the same as slavery. It's not, right? Look at the movie based on a true story. It's not the same as that. I'm not saying we're perfect. We're not. There are lots of things we could fix systemically in this country. Lots of things. It's not slavery. It's way better than slavery. It's better than when my father was running around. My father dealt with far worse racism than I have dealt with. And his father worse than that, and his father was a slave. So it's way better for me and even better for my daughter. So getting better, 100%. I want her to see that. But what if they had, because they don't want to make her feel afraid or triggered, what if they had taken that movie and made slavery look nicer or better or whatever? How horrible would that be? I think the old Disney racism should be shown, that was mainstream. When I've shown my oldest daughter some of that, she's blown away by it. She can't believe that existed. She's like, is this real? I'm like, this was mainstream. Yes, this was mainstream. They should understand that. Why? Because they don't want to see it again, obviously, but to also understand how far we've come. Right? To also understand how far we've come. So I hate the book banning. You know, I get what the Germans did as they banned, the book I won't mention on stream because I'll get canceled, but they banned the book of books. Now, I understand emotionally why you do that as Germans. That was not a good look for you guys. I got it. I understand that. That makes total logical sense. Ban the book. I got it. However, I think they did the right thing, to be fair with you. You can now buy that book in Germany again, but they now have explanations next to it. But you can read that book, but you can look at it and go, hey, this is what happened. You don't want them to forget what happened ever, right? We don't want Hitler too. That will be I think we all could agree on that one, at least. Whatever your feelings might be, we don't want Hitler too. So let them read the book and understand what's going on. So I'm not for book banning at all, even in those extremes. So, all right, let me see if I can go here. Matt says, what is the one thing we as Americans can actually look forward to with some degree of hope? Anything? Yes, there is. And that is, we've come close to falling apart more than once, and we've come through. I think that's one thing. Second, many nations, they are built together because of many different things, like they all speak the same language, they all have the same religion, they all read the same books, they're all raised by the same kind of parent, right? That type of thing. I remember when I was in Japan, I lived in Japan for several years, and I was talking to some people there, and they would say to me, why in the world are you Americans so mad when people burn your flag. Like, you guys get mad about that. Like, we don't get mad if you burn a Japanese flag. We don't care. That's why no one burns Japanese flag, because we don't care. You burn a Japanese flag, we go, whatever, we don't care. Here's the reason why. In Japan, which, by the way, some of you may know, it's one of the most homogenous nations on the planet. I think Finland, Japan, and Korea, like in the top 3 in that area. But those countries are very homogenous in their population. So I said, you guys are linked by so many things. The symbols aren't that important to you because you already have everything. In the case of Japan, they have a national school system. They learn the same books, the same schools, same language. Most of them are the same religion. They eat the same foods. They're very similar. They know what it is to be Japanese. And many countries have that. In America, we don't. Our symbols are important to us because we don't have the same religion, the same background, the same thought process, the same language. We're different. That's the glory of diversity. But here's the thing that links us and the advantage we have. If you have a nation like, say, Russia, Germany, France, where people who aren't Russian or Japanese or German or French are there, there's always the tension, right? Even to this day, Germans have tension with their Turkish population, right? French have tensions with their North African populations, right? They still have this tension with these populations because they're different. We always had different. What links us is ideology, symbolism, thought process, values. That is what links us. If we can find the right thing to keep us together, right back together. Even though we think differently, we can come back together. I hope, obviously, I'm totally biased, but that's okay. You're asking me, so I'm going to tell you my opinion. I hope that is the idea of freedom, leaving people alone to pursue happiness the way they want to pursue happiness. Not having to agree with you, Matt, but saying, you know what? Matt wants to go off and do that cool thing to make himself happy. Go on, Matt. Do you, man. I'm going to go do me. You go do you, and we're good to go. And if all of a sudden Avi wants to come in and stop us, we're going to band together to stop this mean Avi guy from letting us be who we want to be. I think that's how we can bring this country back together. That's how we can do it. That's my view. I hope it made sense. So, all right. Lewis says, yes, Howard Stern has become a scared coward. Yeah. Yes. Logic says Stern is such a fraud and has obviously been grifting for years. Now, just my opinion, though. I used to like him. I thought he was good. Yeah. Joe says, I watched that convention. I still got the Howard Stern for governor of New York stuck in my head. Yes, that actually happened. Some of you don't remember that. That actually happened. Yes, absolutely. So, Matt is not a Howard Stern fan. Howard Stern was a self-serving fraud from the start. If it didn't make money from it, it didn't make sense. There we go. Chip says, Larry, remember All in the Family. What an amazing show. Couldn't exist today. Couldn't exist today. Absolutely. MJ Cook Jr. says, Spain defeated the fascists. Not really. I mean, Franco, kept it until he died in the 70s? Is that right? He died in the 70s, I think. Spain didn't defeat their fascists. They just eventually morphed into what they are now, right? I mean, was there a war to get rid of? I don't think it was. The fascists fought that war in make me think. If not mistaken, the Spanish Civil War was in the 1920s, right? Late 20s, early 30s. Is my history right? Late 1920s, early 1930s. Spanish Civil War was against the communists and the fascists. The fascists won. The Spanish didn't fight any other wars. They didn't join World War II. They stayed out, kept internal, and the fascist government stayed in place for what? 40 years, 50 years? I don't think that's a defeat. That's a win. That's a win. So, I don't know. All right. Doug says, I was in the army at the height of the Iraq and Afghanistan, and soldiers were getting out and joining contractors, making $100K tax-free. Yes, that was my point, Doug. Thank you for that. For the contractors, this wasn't the boondoggle at all. This was huge. Absolutely. Joe says, my congressman's defense contractor. War's profitable. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. Yep. All right. Let's see here. Michael says, Americans do not want us in Ukraine. Would not go well politically. Michael, I hope you are right. For those of you who remember the first Gulf War 30 years ago now, 40, 30, yeah, 30 years ago now. The same thing was true about that. But man, at that point, it was really only CNN. I mean, there were others, but CNN was the big dog then. CNN was beating that war drum for months until I had my friends saying, we got to get there, Saddam Hussein guy. He's like Hitler. They were saying that Saddam Hussein was Hitler. That's what was happening. So I hope you're right, but I'm worried that we will just keep going. And before you know it, America's gonna be like, we got to get to Ukraine because I don't know, whatever the media tells me is true. I think that's what's going to happen. So Matt says, war is the most profitable business on earth. Yes. Yep. All right. Michael says they keep your content from being viewed on the algorithms. That is also true. Yes. Joe says no notification because Joe Rogan in the headline. Yeah. I changed my headlines, huh? No. Keep going. Still doing it. Steve South says support the Canada Freedom Convoy 2022. We need to help make it the only story worldwide for as long as it takes. I feel like people are kind of supporting it, right? But also negatively, right? People are attacking it also. So I think it's getting some press. It is getting some press. I think it is. So yeah. So, all right. John says Joe Rogan briefly endorsed Ron Paul 2008. Yes, I remember that. Yes, he did. Absolutely. Fry Steve says there are plenty of Dems who are anti-mandate. It's true. You find some of them, but not many in New York State. I have searched. There's like 2 in the entire state. There are not many. There are not many at all. So yes. Eric says Rogan is pro-choice and pro-nationalized healthcare as of about 2 months ago. Yeah, I think he has some of those too. And I'm actually okay with someone not falling specifically on one side. I'm okay with people bouncing. I think most people do. And that's the problem. Whichever side's in power says you must agree on all the things. And if you don't, get out. I'm sure Rogan could easily, find things like some Democrats, things like some Republicans. I'm sure he could. I think most people could. Most people could probably find some of each. I'm sure they could. So, but he did say, that's right, he voted Libertarian in the last 2 elections. He did. He voted for Joe Jorgensen and Gary Johnson. That's true. So yes, absolutely. 100%. John says, I don't ever get your notifications right away, Larry, and I've been a habitual watcher for a long time now. Sometimes I get one the day after. I know. What are you going to do? I keep going. I'm not quitting. I got to keep going. Yes. Friar Steve says he actually identifies as progressive. He said it. He said it. You can Google it. Joe Rogan, I am a progressive. Yes. John says Tulsi Gabbard's one of the last D's defending free speech. Not sure if D's would even claim it right now. You're right. Would they actually do that? Yeah. David says, Larry, what is the procedure to actually own a firearm in New York City for home use? You can. It is possible. You have to, of course, submit total background checks, all those things. How it works is the city, all the boroughs in the city go to the city, right? And if you leave New York City, each county has their own rules. But New York City, even though it's 5 boroughs, 5 counties, it's all one, right? So you have to apply, and they don't tell you what they're checking. Literally, they say just give us everything. They don't tell you what they're checking. They could be checking your driver's license. They could be checking your security number. They don't tell you. If you make a mistake on anything, like say I got a speeding ticket 25 years ago, they find the speeding ticket. I didn't put it down. I get denied. I'm not joking. That's how New York City works. And they won't even tell me. They just go denied. I go, well, why? Denied. Try again. I think it's $300. I forgot there's a fee. I forgot the fee. I think it's $300. Last I checked, I think it was $300. I think it was. I forgot. Last time I checked was like 15 years ago. I forgot last time I checked. I think it was $300 then. But it was a fee. You paid a fee. You don't get the license. You lose the money. So if you get past it, right, and you get past it and you have it, now you can own it. Great. There's literally a time limit. I think it's been a while since I've checked out the data. I think it's 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. You can only be out of your house for 2 hours. That's all you get to go to a range and come back. If you're caught outside of your house more than 2 hours, it's a felony. I'm going to Rikers Island if I get caught in traffic. So, yeah, I'm good. Maybe if I leave New York City, I'll rethink. But yes. And by the way, it could take up to 2 years to get okay to get a firearm in New York City. 2 years to get it. Supposedly, it costs in New York State, it's supposed to be 90 days. 90 days is the law. 90 days. 2 years. They always say the same thing. We don't have the bodies, sorry. Not a priority, sorry. So 2 years to get it. 2 years. So there we go. So Dan says, I've always been a pro-death penalty, but that, Larry, is a bulletproof reason for opposing it. I'm going to have to examine my views on that now. That is my issue, right? I don't trust, when it comes to death penalty, could I be convinced that there could be a reason for society to realize the only way of handling somebody is to kill that person? I could be convinced. That's a conversation. Could I be convinced that government can do it well? No. No. If you look, and there are 2 reasons why. Look at who gets death penalty and who doesn't. You know who didn't get the death penalty, Dan? Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer lured people in with planning, raped them, murdered them, and ate them. I'm not making that up if you don't know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. He lured them in, raped them, murdered them, and ate them. Multiple people. They found the body parts in his fridge. True story. What happened to him? Life. If you're gonna kill anybody, if there's someone to kill, if there is one, it's that guy. He didn't say he didn't do it. It wasn't, he agreed to it. Yeah, did it. Me. It's like there was a battle or fight, or was it him? It was him. He did it. The cops caught him because one of the guys escaped, and they caught the guy on the street naked. They caught the guy. They said, "Where? I was in there. That guy, he was going to eat me." And they went inside. They found the body parts in the fridge. That guy didn't get killed. What's the death penalty for, if not for him? I don't know anyone else who should have gotten it off the top of my head but him. Who gets it? Some guy who is an eyewitness. Yeah, I saw that guy kill this other guy in some gang-related fight. So gangbangers shooting each other, eyewitness account, death penalty. That's right. There was, and then someone I'm sure will correct me on this, there was a study done in Illinois of the people on death row using DNA evidence, and it was some crazy number, like, I'm going to make it up. I forgot. It's a high number. 20% of the people were innocent or something like that. I forgot what the number was. It was a huge number, like 10 or 15% or something like that were actually innocent. Or, I shouldn't say innocent, were not the murderer, right? Who knows if they were innocent, but were not the murderer. And they were on death row. 10 or 15. You're only 80% or whatever, 80, 90% sure? You need to be 99.9 repeating percent sure for me to even think that would work. And not just that, it can't be based upon the actual crime only. It must also somehow be based upon the evidence. Most of these people who are convicted either through a plea deal. If it's a plea deal, you're never going to plead for the death penalty. You never would. Why would you plea if your plea is death penalty? So the people who are the worst in our system now will never get death penalty because they will always plea to get life imprisonment so that they can get the conviction of the evil guy. Jeffrey Dahmer, perfect example of that, right? So he'll just plea down and done. That's happening all the time now. So the worst people won't even get it. There's so many reasons why I'm anti-death penalty, but those are all the reasons, right? There'd have to be some way where I would believe that this isn't a thing, so I'm making this thing up. But there would have to be some level of 99% sure he or she did it, right? Something like that. Again, that does not exist now. It have to be something like that, not just, how do you know he did it? Well, Louis said he saw him. And the jury goes, I believe it. Guilty. That guy gets killed? Got to be something like that. Like, it's got to be DNA evidence or something. There are so many things that would have to change in our system for me to even consider being a pro-death penalty that I'm completely anti-death penalty. So much would have to change. It would have to be a night and day change of our system for me to even consider it. So just my view. So, all right. Avi says, Larry, did you see Eric Adams reinstated the gun confiscation unit in the NYPD after Comrade Shea de Blasio disbanded it? How did Comrade Shea de Blasio support gun control and disband the gun confiscation unit, the PD? Sanity is clearly illegal in New York politics. This is why. See, I don't know if it's going to work. What I'll give Eric Adams, he did something that I thought was savvy, and I'm going to try to give credit where credit is due. He reinstated the gun confiscation unit. The reason why it was disbanded is because it was all about stop and frisk. And all it was doing was putting Black and Hispanic people in prison. That's what it was actually doing. It wasn't making things better. It was putting a bunch of people of color in prison. So he stopped it. I get that. Eric Adams said, we're doing this to get the guns. You guys better follow the law. This is not stop and frisk. This is get guns off the street. This is not put Black and brown people in jail. I'm hoping it works. I don't know if it would, Avi. I'm worried they're going to go right back, try to go out of their way to just get numbers, go into poor neighborhoods, and stop preying on the poor. I hope that doesn't happen. I am worried that it will. I think time will tell. One thing I'll give Eric Adams is he understands that and has been proactive in trying to stop it. I hope it works. I want him to be successful here. I really want this to work. I'm not saying that. I live in New York City. I don't want gangbangers shooting each other. I hope it works. And I mean that honestly. I hope it works. So we'll see. So Chris says he's progressive in a progressive way, not a nut job way. Nice. I love that. Yes. Craig says all elected officials are just some girl or some guy. They need to relearn that, and we need to remember that. Yes, absolutely. You hear me say it all the time. I am literally just a guy. Absolutely. So yes. So, all right. How many Larry Sharpe for Governor posts do you do per day on your page? I actually don't know. My team does most of my social media posting. I don't actually know. Sorry, I wish I had an answer. I don't actually know. So yes. I'm spending all my time watching stupid TV news. So yes. So Nate says Victoria Nuland and the U.S. State Department mustered all the hell they could, including a government coup led by Tiana Book and the neo-Nazi Sabota Party, and a war on terror against any Ukrainian that didn't accept it, killing 10,000. I'm discussing with D.C. and what they do with my money. Is that true? I never heard that, Nate. I didn't know that. Well, there we go. There we go. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. So, Josh says, I bet Facebook and YouTube were happy to promote an anti-Trump Larry Sharpe than an anti-Biden one. Should I be more anti-Trump? I don't feel like I was anti-Trump. Maybe I should be anti-Trump. That's what it is, huh, Josh? I gotta put that in the Josh, that's it. I gotta put like bad, Trump bad. I gotta put that in all my taglines. And then they'll let it go through. See, now you're thinking. All right, see, I should have brought you on board my team. You can tell me put the Trump bad and everything, and then I'll go right through. There we go. That's my problem. I like it. There we go. So a lot of politicians think they're the smartest person in the room. Dave, I got to tell you something. They're told that all day long. All the sycophants around them tell them that they are. Dave, if everyone was telling you how smart you were, you're the smartest guy in the room, you're smartest, oh, so smart, you might start believing it too. They're told that all day long. Yes, absolutely. Lewis says, I believe your theory on the military-industrial complex applies to the health complex response to COVID. Look, I agree. You're right. Yes. The pharmaceutical industrial complex. Yes. Absolutely correct. Yes. Yes. And it's global also. As the military-industrial complex is global, so is the pharmaceutical industrial complex. They are both global. You are correct. Absolutely. Yes. I'm with you. So, all right. So if I grab this here. Jim says, Larry, this has happened on Facebook twice now. I got to watch you live, and it says I can't go live for whatever reason. I disagree, and then I can watch you live. Pseudo shadow ban? Huh. Maybe, yes. They go out of their way to shut me down. It's constant all the time. Yes. Renee says, a few years ago, I took a tour of Crimea with my Polish family. We had an experience on a train from eastern Poland to, is it pronounced Lvow? Is that how it's pronounced? Ukraine. As soon as we entered Ukraine, Polish, because that used to be in Poland. Right. Okay. Yes. That city used to be in Poland, right? Yes. As soon as we entered Ukraine, the conductor demanded payment for taking a different train. We were supposed to go directly to Poland to Odessa. The train was unavailable. We took another train to Odessa on the Black Sea. My cousin contacted the tour guide in the car who contacted the management of the train. Wow. Okay. Can I finish this? Did you give me some more of this? See if I can find this. We ended with the. I'm sorry. The rest didn't come on, Renee. The rest of your story didn't pop up. I apologize. That's what we got. So, yes. Dan says, you're not exaggerating, Larry. The year I voted for Gary Johnson, I understood when some of my fellow Republican friends decided to vote Democrat. Yes, they didn't like Trump. I got that. But then my jaw dropped when I realized they decided to go full born-again Democrat. Yes, and remember something else, Dan. The most zealous are the converted. When you find someone who's really hardcore Republican, hardcore conservative, sometimes you'll find they used to be Democrats. Hardcore Democrats, hardcore liberal, some of them used to be Republican. So sometimes you find that the most zealous sometimes is the converted, right? So someone might have been a Republican their whole life, then they hate Trump and go Democrat. Now they are super liberal, super progressive. That does happen, absolutely, yes. And people think that's all I got. Yes. So David says Tulsi Gabbard had some small L libertarian leanings. That and Hillary Clinton pulling a Nixon's last LBJ dirty chick on Tulsi Gabbard pushed her right. Yes, I agree. Yes. All right. Let's see here. John says, amen. When it comes to convincing, dialectic is better than debate. Yes, absolutely. Joey says, this is a public interactive podcast if you really look. I like that. I like that. It's good. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. Real Mav 1 says, hey, this is worth someone else. Stand corrected. Timothy says, the hippies become the establishment when it suits them. Also true, right? Oh, I'm good now? The establishment's always been there. Of course it has been. Yes. Absolutely, yes. Brian says, Occupy Wall Street was the left's equivalent of the right's Tea Party, and both were equally effective. Were they both equally effective? It's I could see an argument for both. Occupy Wall Street absolutely did have a remainder, right? The remnants of Occupy Wall Street, I think, was a far left chunk of the Democratic Party that stayed. Some of them went to become like DSA members, or some went to Green Party, but I think some of that, and I think Tea Party did a similar thing. They went Liberty Caucus. I think, yeah, maybe I could buy that, but they weren't very. They didn't really. I'm not sure. So, Friar says, Larry, please don't run for POTUS. I don't plan to, but thank you. Your foreign policy is straight from the GRU playbook for hegemony. I'm sorry, I don't know GRU. Should I know that? Sorry, I don't know what GRU is. I guess you don't like my foreign policy. I don't know. But my foreign policy is, again, I'm not running for president, but my foreign policy is the idea that we should be involved when it comes to things like diplomacy and trade and tourism, but not when it comes to war. We should not be involved in other people's civil war. That's my policy. They're civil wars. Ukraine's civil war too. Don't want to be involved. So that's my piece. So maybe that's bad. People disagree, but it still is who I am. And I think you'll understand that why I feel the way I do, even though you may disagree. I think you'll understand that it is in line with what I've been saying forever. Again, even though you may disagree. So yeah, I think so. So Kim says, do you think President Biden knows where Qatar is, or Qatar is, or does he think it's an instrument you play? That's cute. No, I think he does. He's been running around for years. I mean, he's been running around that stuff for years. Absolutely. Yes. Real Mav says, so right on Twitter, Trump. I never like the tweets, so I ignored them. That and Vax pushing, but at least he's for free choice. Yeah, I do think that Twitter people didn't like his tweeting. They did not like it. It's emotional, right? It's emotional. Politics is not just logic, it is emotional. And people did not like the tweeting at all. They thought it was mean. I know people who were like, just don't hate Republicans, but hate Trump. If you ask them why, they will literally say his tweets. They will say that like that. And they're not like hiding it or trying to pretend like it's anything else. Straight to your face. Tweets, hated him. Terrible. Someone's taking his phone. That's the reason. Yes. And some of you may think that's crazy, but it's true. Joe says, I've heard voters say the same thing about just take away his phone. I heard that too. It was a thing, like it was a real thing. I agree. So yes. Lewis says, I like Glenn Beck. A lot of people do. Yep. Shay says, I don't like Glenn Beck, but he was the only public figure trying to get our people out of Afghanistan. Oh, I remember that. I was shocked by that, Shelly. You're right. You're right. I remember that. He was literally putting in cash to get people out of Afghanistan. That was amazing. I love that. Yes. Dan says, I like Glenn Beck. He was a more intellectual leaning conservative. I remember Glenn Beck, though. So some of you may not remember this. He used to be like a radio shock jock morning guy for a while. And then I remember him when he was in Philadelphia. I had a business in Pennsylvania, and I would drive a lot. He was drive time. If I remember right, he was right before Rush Limbaugh and drive like 9 to 12 or something like that, 10 to 12 or something like that. And then Michael Smerconish, who I like Smerconish, used to come on after Limbaugh. I remember that. It was those two guys who I like those two. I like the Limbaugh too, but I like those two. And those are my favorites. So I remember those guys. I still like them. I still do. So Washington Werewolf says, the guy who wrote Rockin' in the Free World should be on the side of free speech. Yes, that's true. Absolutely. Yes. Jamie says, I think people do not understand when someone who states their opinion assumes they're trying to state a fact. No one tries to read between the lines and they already met their minds. That's a hard part too. Agreed. Hard part also. Yes. So the fish smell says, I don't like Jimmy Dore, but at least he isn't blatantly lying constantly. I think Jimmy Dore believes he's doing the right thing, even if he isn't, if that makes any sense. I think he believes he's doing the right thing. I do. I don't think he's a grifter. I mean, people say he's a grifter. I don't know that. I don't know Jimmy Dore well enough, but my gut tells me that I think he thinks he's doing the right thing when many people believe that he's grifting. So, Joel says, Rachel Maddow was too angry for me to watch. You know who I feel about with that? Laura Ingraham. I think she sometimes feels angry to me. Like, I'm like, she feels like she's mad. Yeah, I feel a way about her. Rachel sometimes. I think Rachel Maddow can be also. The issue is, though, Joel, I know some of you think I'm nuts. My goal here isn't to fight the right or fight the left. It isn't. My goal is to bring them to my side. And if I don't know what they're watching and hear what they're hearing and see what they're seeing, how am I going to be able to communicate with them? I can't. So I have to be able. So yes, I watch Rachel Maddow. Yes, I watch Tucker Carlson. I have to be able to hear what both sides are talking about so I can bring them to my side. Otherwise, how can I communicate? I do. I prefer Newsmax or OAN. Believe it or not, it's going to sound funny. Newsmax and OAN were some of the only stations who would bring me aboard when I ran for governor last time. They actually did. They brought me on. Did an OAN and like a Newsmax. A Newsmax twice and OAN like once or twice too. They actually brought me on. So, yeah. So Joe says, I don't watch any national TV news. I only have thoughts that's bad recently. Yes, it has been bad recently. Yes. I've had a lot of voters tell me in the past month about voters' rights. I don't know specifics what they're talking about outside of Republicans don't want blacks to vote and Democrats want illegals to vote. Yes, I think that is the story behind both of them. I'm not sure either is true, but that's definitely the story behind both of them. Yes, absolutely. So, actually, Larry, you are wrong. Maybe to listen what Rogan has said about the controversy. I'm open to being wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong. I am. I'm open to being it. Yes. Jim says he should nominate Kamala. I got to tell you, if I'm a Democrat, and I'm not, but if I was, I think you're right. You get rid of Kamala, who's unpopular, right? And you bring in somebody who's popular, right? Whatever. Go nuts and bring in Tulsi Gabbard and show how you're taking care of the left and the right together or something. Well, I made that. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, I agree with you. I think I don't think it's going to happen at all, but I think if I was, I think I would do it. Absolutely. So yes. How are you? Oh my God. Hey Larry, so happy you're live now. When are you back going on Joe Rogan? Soon, please. He obviously needs some good content. Yes. I am actually considering asking him again, and hopefully I'll be on, I hope, within a month or two. That's my hope. We'll see. That is my hope. But as you can tell, he's rather popular and not chomping at the bit to have me on. Hopefully it'll be soon. So yes, I will be trying that. Yes, absolutely. So Shelly says, yes, you can call it sexism too. Okay, so racism and sexism. At least that's fair, Shelly, right? It's not fair to call it only racism. If you're going to call it, you've got to call it both if you do. Okay. He's blatantly bigoted, but he likes women, so it seems the only way he can retain political correctness without being repulsed by skin color. That goes to the other piece, Shelly, right? There's a part of me that feels bad for the woman that he picks. What I was saying earlier, right? Whoever he picks, there are clearly qualified women for that spot. Clearly there are, right? Now he's going to want a liberal. That's who he is. Could you find a liberal who was qualified? Of course you could. Could you find a liberal black woman? Of course you could, right? Of course you could. It won't matter though, because no matter what, we're going to be thinking, oh yeah, you were the quota. That woman is, if she is very talented and credentialed, if he picks her and she's talented and credentialed, they're going to look at her like whatever. So yes. So thank you, Merrick Garland, not Gorsuch. Thank you. I don't know why my brain went away. Thank you, Joe. Yes, absolutely. Yes. What kind of libertarian are you? Says the brown mamba. ANCAP, MinCap. Well, to be forward, I am multiple. What I mean by that, in my heart versus what's practical and realistic. I would love, in my heart, I would love a totally voluntary society and world. That would be amazing. I would love that. Our world is nowhere near that. Just nowhere near that. We're not there. We're nowhere near there. So by default, I become a minarchist because that's what we can move towards realistically, right? I've spoken about this with some people here who are some of the libertarians are very much open borders. I'm not an open borders libertarian. In my heart, would I love to have open borders? Of course I would. I would love to have it to where we're all having a wonderful, world where we could all cross borders and not worry. And I would love that world. It'd be an amazing world. We're nowhere near that. We have to have borders. It's just, we're not to that level. It's not where our world is. Maybe one day we'll be there, and I hope we would. I hope we could have a totally voluntary world. That'd be amazing. We're nowhere near there. So by default, I'm not an open borders libertarian. And by default, I'm a minarchist. But not in my heart, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that's clear. I'm trying to do what I think is best that makes sense. So yes. So yes. Fryer says Obama didn't get to do it live. I know, and he should have. He should have. I think he should have. I think Garland should have been. Obama should have gotten Garland, and Trump should have got my God, I can't get any of my guys. Barrett, thank you, Barrett, and he did get Barrett. Trump should have got Barrett, and he did get Barrett, as he should have. I'm okay with that. And Obama should have got Garland. That's how it should have worked. I am unhappy that the Senate stopped that in the case of Obama. Obama should have got Garland, and Trump should have gotten Barrett. All good. That's what should have happened. So anyway, Jim says, on the other hand, maybe he should nominate Hillary. That will get rid of her. It's one thing. See, Jim, you're thinking she's done. Absolutely. Yes. There we go. So, all right. Let's see here. In the 80s, the Fed couldn't rein in inflation until they raised interest rates, 1.5 times the real inflation rate. Interest rates went to 20%. Do you think we should have 15% interest rates? All right. In theory, we should be raising interest rates in theory, because clearly this is a fake interest rate and it's nothing but bad. In practice, raising interest rates quickly now would probably devastate our economy and do so much damage. It would be horrible how bad the damage would be. So difficult for me to think that will happen. I think no. I think the Fed will raise rates maybe half a point max. I can't see them going higher than that. Money's free. It's been free for what? 20 years, whatever. It's been free. So what? Yeah, it's free. So I don't see it ever coming back. I don't. I think us collapsing. I think we collapse and have a new dollar before that happens. That's what I believe. So my point. Joe says, I watched Amistad recently. Wow. Yes. Yes. Josh says, I heard books like To Kill a Mockingbird and Anne Frank's Diary being banned. Crazy. Yes, that's true. They are banning those. Yes, that is happening. They don't want you to read them anymore because trigger warning. Be triggered. Like Anne Frank, you should be triggered. To Kill a Mockingbird, you should be triggered. Please be triggered. That's a good thing. Watch it, read it, and be like, my God, that's a bad thing. Let's not do this. Yes. What, are you not going to watch Schindler's List now? Be triggered by Schindler's List. You should be. It's crazy to me, right? I want you to be triggered by that so that we don't do that again. That is a bad, we should be like, I hate that. Don't do that. Let's be afraid of that. Let's not do that. Yes. The thing I'll bring up, and it's the same, but not. It's looking at how effective the civil rights movements were in the 60s versus the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Were there people like MLK in the 30s, 40s, and 50s? There were. Maybe not as powerful as him, but there were many like him who were trying to do things those years. What was the biggest difference between him and the rest? The biggest difference wasn't his skill set. He was a skilled and talented orator and a great person. Absolutely. But that isn't the biggest thing. The biggest thing was TV. That was the biggest thing. People, particularly in the North, who didn't understand what the segregation of the South was, who didn't really get it, had to watch on TV as cops turned the hose on black people protesting, just saying, I'm a man, sent dogs attacking them, beat them over the head, trying to sit. I mean, people said, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm going to be very forward. There were a lot of people who were like, I don't really like black people, but I don't want to kill them. I don't want to put sick dogs on them. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I want people to see that. And I bring this up, and I'll bring it up with the Anne Frank issue. If you were a young woman in Germany, born in, say, I don't know, 1918, 1920, would you be born hating Jewish people? Of course not. You don't know what Jewish people are when you're born. You have no idea. No idea. You had to, over time, be okay with dehumanizing your Jewish population over time, to where all of a sudden now you're 20 and they're carting the Jews off and you're like, whatevs. You're not born that way. You have to be okay with it until they're carting them away like, how bad could it be? Whatever. Whatever. The German population had to be trained that it's okay, don't worry, it's whatever, who cares? Had to be trained to think that way. But if the German population in the 20s and 30s had to read whatever the equivalent of Diary of Anne Frank was, whatever that would have been, there obviously didn't exist yet, but whatever that would have been, or watched it on some form of TV, which they didn't have then, but if that had happened, you can bet a whole lot of them like, whoa, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. A lot more would have been that way, and maybe it wouldn't have happened. How do I know that? Well, in America, Uncle Tom's Cabin made a whole lot of people abolitionists. That book, which is brutal, made a lot of people abolitionists by just reading Uncle Tom's Cabin. The last thing we want to do is ban books that might make people have to look at themselves and go, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to see that. So I went a bit long, I know, but it does matter. It does matter. So yes. Anyway, Tom says, "Oh yes, the cough, my cough. I actually read that from a school library back in the day. Trying to understand what happened. Yes, I know many people who did. I've never read it, but I know a lot of people who have. I do absolutely. So, all right. Paula says, Larry, if New Yorkers want a truly diverse candidate, they should support you. I agree. Yes, absolutely. Josh says, I heard the movie Idiocracy is being banned for only being 80% correct. Well, like 90%, but yes. It is, as Joe says, a documentary. Yes, absolutely. All in a Family still in the air. Is it on one of those stations like Me or something like that? So yeah. David says, All in a Family, The Jeffersons, Good Times, Monty Python, and Murphy Brown couldn't be written today. Yeah, I think you're right. And here's what I would say. If you look at those shows, All in the Family, Jefferson's, Good Times, specifically, if you don't have the war on drugs, imagine there's no war on drugs. It's just people doing what people do. And in those 60s, 70s, and 80s, what America sees as Black people is All in the Family, from when they had the Black characters on there, the Jeffersons, Good Times, Cosby before he was a rapist. Hate to say that, but Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters, all those cool shows that showed positive Black people with families who loved each other and had jobs and did stuff like everybody else. And it wasn't cops and boys in the hood. And it wasn't that. There'd be a whole different way of looking at the Black population today. Different way of looking at it. I remember from Colin Powell's book, My American Journey. He said he actually preferred Amos and Andy to cops, even though Amos and Andy was in everyone's eyes, it was racist. He was like, at least you see them as a family. You see Black people as a family, not as drug dealers or street thugs or whatever is the case may be. I think these shows had a lot of value. A lot of value. I completely agree. There was a lot of value in those shows. So yes. So, all right. Don't forget Son of Sam. Oh, right. Didn't get the death penalty either. You're right. Yes. John said, I'd be okay with the death penalty in a perfect society with perfect jurors. But at that juncture, we shouldn't need it, right? Valid point. Valid point. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Friar Steve says, good points on death penalty argument. Spot on. Yeah. That's my issue. That is my issue. So, all right. Steve says, I'm anti-government, Larry Sharpe for governor. Sometimes you just got to give in, you real libertarians. That's good. Thank you. Yes. Joe says, I was a Democrat, then a Republican, then an NPA, then libertarian. I think that's why I like Lincoln JV. You follow him. You're right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, the funny part is I was never any party until libertarian. I became libertarian in 2012. So about 10 years ago. Prior to that, I was like, whatever the third party is, Perot will save us, Nader will save us, whatever, third party, that's the answer. That was everything. So yeah, I'm with you. So, all right. Gail says you have good foreign policy, follows Ron Paul's. It's true. We are very close on foreign policy. Absolutely. Yes. Very close. Yes. John says, I remember when the movie The People versus Larry Flint came out. I feel like more people should see it. They'd probably want to ban it. That was good too, right? He was always fighting about that. Absolutely. Yes. Stephen says, I salute you, Larry. Having to watch CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News is like going to the dentist for a root canal. You get used to it. That's all I'm saying. You get used to it. You just kind of, you have to get used to it. Because the other thing you find out also is if you look at what's on each station, sometimes they don't cover the same stories at all. Like what Rachel Maddow's talking about and what Tucker Carlson's talking about, it's as if they're in separate countries. They're talking completely different issues on everything. So it really makes you think, oh, that's why. That's why the left doesn't think that way. That's why the right doesn't think that way. They don't even hear it. Like they're not paying attention to that part of the world, what's happening. They're not paying attention. So yes. So all right. Where am I here? Crypto dollar then. Maybe. I think that's possible. I think that's possible. Yes. Gene says, one of my sons said that he just wants to be conservative without being a racist. I think you could do that easily. That's not that hard. He said he could. I said he could be a libertarian. That way, he could be as conservative or as liberal as he wants to be, as long as he doesn't want to force others to be what he wants. Yes. He asked how we could pay for education without taxes. I didn't have a good answer for him at the time. Later, I thought of some of the things to tell him, but he won't talk to me. I need to improve my way of communicating libertarian ideas. How can I do that? Well, you can have him watch my videos. You can have him reach out to me. All good. Those work. Or you can also go to libertarianism.com. The link's there at the bottom. All of those would work. They're all good. So yes, absolutely. Dan says, I thought that was the whole point of movies like Schindler's List, to be triggered. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I want you to be triggered by Schindler's List. Please be triggered by that. I hope we all are. That would be amazing. Yes, absolutely. So, guys, I appreciate all the time you guys gave me this evening. Please do me a favor. Go to libertarianism.com, libertarianism.com. Click that link there to support the show. And always like, comment, and share. It is important. It does matter. I'm going to be tomorrow at noon. I will be on my radio show, A Free Solution. If you guys want to see me out of Western New York, please click here. You'll see it then. Otherwise, I will see you all very soon.